Previously on Trey Turns Talk Show, series number, a total of 2,729 units were produced and 5 B units. We had discussed electromotive diesel's class of general-purpose locomotives from the GP7 all the way to the GP38-2, from the late 1940s all the way to the early 1970s. And now it's time to continue on to the GP39 classes all the way up to the GP60s. If you are watching part 2 right now but still have yet to see part 1, it is best if you go ahead and check out part 1, but I will give you a shortcut. There is a link in the description of part 1 where you can watch that. And once you finish, you can come back here and learn about the rest of the general purpose locomotives. Take your rail fanning knowledge to the next level and impress all your other train buddies. Without further ado, let's continue on. Alright, so this is what your EMD GP39 looks like. Built from 1969 all the way to 1970. Only 23 of these GP39 units were produced. The GP is general purpose, and 39 is the model series, just in case you don't know that yet. And now, here's a unique and rare locomotive. This was only owned by the Southern Railway, and then when Norfolk Southern bought it, Norfolk Southern kept these kinds of units. This is not just an ordinary GP39. Not because it's a high hood, because there are other GP units with high hoods, but this is actually a GP39X. This was built in 1980, and only a total of 6 units were produced. This is not a very common term to hear, the GP39X. And I'm sorry to say this, but I have no idea what the X means. As a matter of fact, the X probably doesn't even stand for anything. And now, this other variant of the GP39. Built from 1974 all the way to 1984 with only 239 produced. This is called the EMD GP39-2. And the dash 2 is just like the dash model, you know. And then there's also a rebuild of BNSF's GP39-2s, and they just call it the GP39-3R, and the R means rebuilt. And then another rebuild, once again, of the GP39. This is actually just the GP39-3. Nothing else changes, just a rebuild, that's it. And this here is a rebuild of the EMD GP30. It still looks the same as regular GP30, but trust me, it's different on the inside. This is an EMD GP39E. Locomotive itself is enhanced, hensing what the E stands for. And now, here's a very popular locomotive right here. As you can see, there is actually a little bit of physical difference. It's just hard to tell. See those little circles on the top right there? There's like a fan inside of them. Now, if you look back at the GP38-2s, there are only 2 of those fans. This one has 3. If you see 3 fans, you are looking at an EMD GP40. Very popular locomotive as well. Built from 1965 to 1971, with a total of 1,221 being produced. And now here's a rare variant of the GP40. Not a rebuild at all, just a different one. It was built in only 1968, and only 13 were produced. And if you notice there's more fans. There's 4 fans on the top there, and the side looks a little different too. And the back kind of looks like an SD40T-3, but it has no tunnel motor either. So that's the physical difference right there. This is a power slug unit, and it's called the GP40P. That's what the P stands for as well, the power slug unit. And then Southern Pacific also had another variant of the GP40P. Hardly any difference at all, it's just called the GP40P-2. And now, here's another variant of them. Union Pacific and BNSF are the only two railroads that have these units. This is another rare type of the GP40. This is called the GP40X, built from 1977 to 1978, and only 23 being produced. And now here's a much older GP40 unit right here. And yes, it's actually a passenger service unit this time, not a freight unit for once. Well, most of general purpose units are freight, but there are several passenger variants out there, and we'll get to more of those later. This one was built in 1966 with only 8 total produced. This is called the EMD GP40 TC. The TC standing for Toronto Commuter, because this is actually a Canadian GP locomotive. Oh yeah, and here's also another very popular GP locomotive. It's not a GP38-2 and it's not another GP40. This isn't no trick. It is similar to a GP40, however, but this is actually an EMD GP40-2, which was built from 1972 to 1986 with 1,140 being produced. There are actually more GP40-2 units than GP40s. And then over here sitting are 3 rare birdies. Right here. Can't really tell much of a physical difference, but if you look near the cab, there's something yellow sticking out over there. The top has a small physical difference too, that little square over there. Only 9 of these locomotives were produced and built from 1983 to 1985. This is called the EMD GP49. And then this other general purpose unit, owned by Burlington Northern only. Well, these BN units are still in service, but most of them are wearing BNSF's H4 livery. And this here is called an EMD GP50. And then there's also another version of it called the GP50L, and it's lightweight. Hence is what the L stands for. Then here's this one. You already know what the name of it is, because it says so right there on the cab. The GP60. Well, there's not much to know about this locomotive. It was built in 1985 and stopped being produced in 1994 with only 294 units, and also another alternate called a B unit with only 23 of those produced, and that's called a GP60B. And the B this time does not mean the locomotive has 4 axles. It may have 4 axles, but that's not what that means. The B means that it is a B unit, and for those of you that do not know, a B unit is a locomotive in which the unit does not have a control cab or crew compartment, and it must be operated with another coupled locomotive with a cab. 2 other terms for that are called booster units and cabless. And now, finally, the last general purpose locomotive. Only 63 of these were produced, and they were built in 1990. And this locomotive here is called the EMD GP60M. You'll notice it's a GP60 unit with a wide cab. But the M, however, stands for modernized, because it's a modernized version of the GP60. And that is it, everyone. We have officially went over all the GP locomotives made by EMD. And I just want to say to you all, thanks for watching. If you are interested in seeing more Train Terms Talk Show episodes, rail fitting videos, and gaming content, please be sure to subscribe. And turn on notifications too, to never miss an awesome upload that I do. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later. GR Productions is signing out.